Shalom, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. We are Between the River and the Ravens. I'm James. This is my wife, Leigh.
Shalom.
Things might look a little different around here on the set. We do have a new intro as well as background. Of course, last week we were at the beach in North Carolina, so things definitely look different for us there. I think we soaked up the last bit of sun because it is cold here. Frost each morning and in the 50s down to the 30s at night. So definitely a change of season, but we're welcoming it in, and we hope that it's a blessed season for you as well.
Awesome. We are so excited to get into this tonight. Woe to those calling evil good.
Yes, that's a great verse that you can see in society today. It's really being flipped, and the narrative, the agendas that everyone's pushing has really contradicted that. And so we just wanted to shine some light on that darkness that is filling and surrounding us each and every day, showing you some things that might be hidden from you. Of course, everything is so well celebrated. We are full of learned deception and don't always realize the origins of these activities, these festivals. So we hope that this message is a blessing, and please like and subscribe if you do enjoy this show. Share it out to friends and family. There's probably many out there that don't know some of these details. So we hope that we can all glean from this message.
We definitely were in the dark for quite a while about it. And it was a rude awakening for us. And a lot of this, if you're watching this, you may already know these things. Maybe you'll learn a thing or two, or it'll just reaffirm in you that you shouldn't be participating in certain things or watching certain things. So let's get our PowerPoint up here. And this really spoke to me. We always search out for the right backdrop or something that goes with what our flow is. And this is definitely spoke to us as to how shrouded things are. And if you are following in the light, you're usually on the outside like this person, You're usually not in the big city in the midst of what they partake in there. So a lot of us on the narrow path, being set apart really is being set apart, right? On the outside.
That's exactly what this photo spoke to me is, being set apart. You may be alone, but it's what is best and what's safest. Because there is so much corruption in these big cities and really just in the world.
Right. So let's just get on in here. Definitely being spammed in our comments. I'm not sure what's going on there. That usually isn't a thing, but we're definitely being hit.
You put evil in your title, and man, does it show up to join you, apparently.
It does.
And it doesn't even want to be blocked. So we'll see. Apologize if you are in the chat and see anything inappropriate. We did not invite them along. So.
Absolutely not. So let's get into our first slide. Hopefully that's the end of the spam. I tell you, you get attacked on every side sometimes. But welcome, and let's get on into it.
We made sure to say our prayer, and I guess we failed to mention to leave that out of here. So
and also praying over you. Take all of this with a grain of salt. Pray for protection for you and over you, as you should do anytime you're digging into subjects like this. We just pray Yahweh protect us, protect you, and that this information is received as He wants it received.
Yeah, we could probably have a discussion on this for the rest of the year. There's so much to go down so many rabbit trails, just so many topics off of this whole main category. So we're just kind of dipping our toe into one. Of course, we are approaching Halloween, so that's kind of what inspired this discussion. We're going to, dabble in a little bit of that tonight, but even more than that, kind of where it stemmed and just evil in general, where you see it rampant in modern day life. So we do hope that this blesses you, but always pray, put your armor on, because the darkness is there, and things have been made to look cute, or we've been desensitized, but it's there, and it can be powerful,
and it is not cute,
be destructive.
Right.
So
it can destroy families in ways that you just wouldn't know. We do have a presentation called Armor Up, Buttercup. That would be a good one to go to if you would like how to protect yourself in this kind of society and world that we live in. It definitely is helpful. But we've attached here, we're going to start in Isaiah. Do you want to start?
Yeah, so Isaiah is such an amazing book. Shell Wagner read the entire book just a few weeks ago, and wow, it is full of so much. And of course, we can probably find inspiration out of every chapter, but this is a very important chapter here. I'm sure you're familiar with it if you have read Isaiah before. Woe to the wicked. And wicked is nothing new. It has been around from the beginning. So we are going to start in Isaiah Isaiah chapter 5, verse 8. Woe unto them that join house to house, that lay field to field, till there be no place, that they may be placed alone in the midst of the earth.
That to me, as we're going through here, I've got a couple of side notes, because this is Isaiah is speaking, I believe, to what we're in now, right in the end of days. So this verse 5:8 to me, I saw as I was praying and thinking over this, overpopulated neighborhoods, overpopulated cities, building after building, the disappearing farmland, buying up the farmland, turning it into a parking lot. I think there was a song about that. They paid paradise and put up a parking lot. That's what I see in that, most definitely. And that's how it is now. But even in our neighborhood, it's ridiculous. We moved where we're at now to be in the country, and it is no longer the country. There is house after house after house.
It is creeping in, that's for sure.
It is.
Picking up in verse 9. In my ears, said Yahuwah Sebaoth, of a truth many houses shall be desolate, even great and fair, without inhabitant.
And that kind of goes along with verse 8. In that I see the coming looming housing collapse, our inflation. As many times as this has happened through the history in America, where we've seen the Great Depression, we've seen many times where people couldn't afford their houses, and the houses shall be desolate. Or that could even be prophetic for people dying off at an alarming rate. Just something to think about there.
Verse 10. Yea, 10 acres of vineyard shall yield one bath, and the seed of a homer shall yield an yhvh.
So this means you're trying really hard to grow things, and you're not getting much return from it. And in that, I see pollution of our water, our air, and our earth. This year was the absolute worst year we've ever had for our garden. Now, granted, we don't have a huge garden, we're not a farm, but our backyard garden, we have 4 different beds that we do. And I've always had great success with things. We're in Middle Tennessee, so we're in a prime area to grow. This was the worst year for growing anything. I couldn't even grow squash. It has been totally sad, and I believe it has everything to do with the pollution of our water, our air, and our earth.
And we've heard from many people all over the country that they've dealt with similar situations, a very weak harvest, unfortunately. Verse 11, woe unto them that rise up early in the morning, that they may follow strong drink that continue until night, till wine inflame them.
And I just, it's not hard to see what this is about. I see Hollywood, I see musicians, I see people that have great wealth from their trades, if you can call it that. A lot of it is to bring sin into our lives through the television, through radio, in our eyes, in our ears, to be bombarded with that. And their lifestyle, you can watch it on any social media or any TV channel and see them living that life right there. This partying, drinking, no worries for them. They're millionaires making their money off of selling iniquity, selling sin. Yeah. And it's profitable.
Being an example to all the youth and everybody that idolizes them, thinking that that's cool, that's what you have to do in order to have success like them. It's just a totally twisted and corrupt way of thinking and living.
Right.
Verse 12, and the harp and the viol and the tabret and pipe and wine are in their feast, but they regard not the work of yahuah, neither consider the operation of his hands.
That definitely, as we're going into the pagan holidays that are approaching, that's what I saw. People have forgotten the Sabbath. It's been corrupted. They've forgotten the feast days of the Father. Those have been corrupted. And man is doing his own thing with the pagan traditions. And if you try to explain that to anyone, they're going to think that you're crazy and that you just hate chocolate and presents. And that's generally how you get looked at. Why do you hate chocolate and presents? Well, I love chocolate and presents, and we can do that without celebrating a pagan tradition. Do you want to reset the comments and see? I don't know if that needed. Yep.
Verse 13, therefore my people are gone into captivity because they have no knowledge, and their honorable men are famished, and their multitude dried up with thirst.
Current world system, Babylon revisited. I feel like that's what we are. There's not really much you have to add to that. Just turn the news on, turn on social media, watch anything right now, and this will make sense to you.
Verse 14, therefore Sheol has enlarged herself and opened her mouth without measure, and their glory and their multitude and their pomp, and he that rejoices shall descend into it.
This one was pretty easy as well. It's what we've been experiencing the current 3 years, and the money that's been made by those producing the solution. It's a multi-billion-dollar industry, and you also see the number of deaths that have happened and are happening related to that solution every single day, all day long. It is amazing the number of news articles I read about young people and middle-aged people dying at alarming rates with blood clots and other complications that I can say as a nurse, I believe are directly related to their solution.
The new symptoms and side effects that nobody's seen before or can explain. Well, that would be a pretty easy way to explain why it's new and never been seen before.
Mm-hmm. Continuing Isaiah 5:15 through 21. And the mean man shall be brought down, and the mighty man shall be humbled, and the eyes of the lofty shall be humbled. But Yahweh Sabaoth shall be exalted in judgment, and El that is holy shall be sanctified in righteousness. Then shall the lambs feed after their manner, and the waste places of the fat ones shall strangers eat. Woe unto them that draw iniquity with cords of vanity, and sin as it were with a cart rope, that say, let him make speed and hasten his work, that we may see it, and let the counsel of the Holy One of Yasharel draw nigh and come, that we may know it. Woe unto them that call evil good and good evil, that put darkness for light and light for darkness, that put bitter for sweet and sweet for bitter. Woe unto them that are wise in their own eyes and prudent in their own sight.
We're seeing a lot of that.
We are, and we're going to get into that. We have some interesting information coming up.
So let's start with the word evil, where it comes from, the descriptions. We actually see that it breaks down to ra'ah. And if you're ever followed or familiar with any Egyptian theology, history, you're going to be you will know that name for sure. So the Brown Driver's Brig definition of evil is bad, disagreeable, malignant, unpleasant, evil as in giving pain, unhappiness, or misery, or displeasing.
Wow. And we know Ra is the sun god, right? And this single eye here is the eye of Horus. The resh, the ayin make up the word Ra, that root word Ra. That's the root of Ra'ah. So that's a resh and an ayin. And to me, when I pulled this out, I saw the man or the head watching. So it's almost like evil, that evil head, that evil man. It's always got an eye on you, watching you. And I found it quite interesting that it's noted as bad, unpleasant, and giving pain and unhappiness and misery. That's so true, right? It is so true that when you're steeped in evil, when you're participating in evil, this is what you're inviting into yourself, something that's going to cause pain, unhappiness, and misery.
Yeah, not just physically, but mentally and emotionally, especially spiritually, what it can do to your soul and your walk.
Right. So here I just found many different other depictions of that eye of Horus, that eye of Ra. And you'll notice here, the first one is an early representation of the Masonic eye surrounded by the clouds and rays of light. You see those rays of light from the sun because he was the sun god. This one with the pyramid and the eye, you'll recognize from our dollar bill. That is the principal national symbol of the U.S. The Great Seal was first used in 1782. And below, that is the eye of Horus. Found that depiction comes directly from our the center of our brain, where the pineal gland is. I was going to say pituitary. Thank you. The pineal gland. And I find it interesting that their symbology for that looks exactly like the pineal gland in your brain. And the only way they would know that is if they cut a brain in half to see it. That's the bizarre fact of that.
Yeah, that's interesting that drawing was from 1782. It didn't take but just a few years after our country was formed to already have this established,
Right.
And I'm sure it was in the works before.
Mm-hmm.
So the sun god Ra has three aspects. The first is Kipri, as the morning sun. The second aspect is Ra himself, as the mid-sun aspect. The final is Atum, as the evening sun. Egyptian mythology notes him as Pharaoh of gods and Lord of creation. He merged with the war god Horus and together created Horakti. Something like that.
Yeah.
Ra, the Horus of two horizons. Osiris is the lord of the underworld. Isis, goddess of health, marriage, and wisdom, married her brother Osiris and are the great-great-grandchildren of Ra.
Or evil. Ra is evil, right? I find it interesting that when he merged with Horus, he became the Horus of two horizons. That's like that two-facedness, that two-heartedness that we've talked about before, good and evil. You can't have your foot in one world, though, and your other foot in the other. It just doesn't work that way. So here I found some depictions of, this is Oscar from the Oscars in Hollywood. We are reminded that golden statue of an unknown figure with his arms crossed and feet stood together bears a striking resemblance to the statues of Osiris, Horus's father, and Ptah, the god of craftsmen. It does. It looks so much like it, right? And when you look into the history of Oscar, it's quite mysterious. There's no real explanation as to what or whom he is. So that's very interesting. I'm sure it's something as nefarious as this.
Yeah, we see people giving their life and all their effort into trying to win one of these awards.
And what does that entail?
I doubt they even know.
Oh, I bet they do.
Or they might.
Yeah.
We just don't.
That's right. We just don't. Is this me?
Yep.
Okay. I found this very interesting as well. So Sunday worship is the setting aside of the first day of the week for the worship of the sun deity known in Babylon as Tammuz, in Persia as Mithra. The Roman cult of Mithras was based on this earlier Persian deity. In Greece as Helios, and in Rome as Sol Invictus, the unconquerable sun. The origin of sun worship, why is that in there twice? I don't know. Sun worship originated in Babylon with the Bible character known as Nimrod, setting himself up as a mighty one in the earth by subjugating the population of that time to his authority and control. And you'll see that in Genesis 10:8-12. Pagan sources name his wife Semiramis, who became identified as the Queen of Heaven, and Jewish historical sources state that he was killed by one of the patriarchs because of the evil he was bringing into the earth. After his death, Semiramis, his wife, became pregnant and bore a son, which was claimed to be of divine origin, having been conceived from the now risen Nimrod. So this top picture here is a frieze of Mithras with the rays coming off of her head, and you'll notice the resemblance between Mithras and the Statue of Liberty and the rays coming off her head. It's right in plain sight. If you're looking, it's in plain sight. If you're studying and digging into these things, it's really hard not to see the truth that's right in your face, right?
It's all there documented in the history books.
All you got to do is dig in. I'd use the internet while you can, while you can still find stuff without it all being blocked. But it's uncanny, the resemblances that you'll see, and the fact that it's been hidden from us. And we just have lived this life with blinders on without even realizing why these statues, why these monuments, why all of these things are ingrained within our society.
And generally, the population, they just don't ask. They don't.
I didn't
wonder, and that's just where it stops, And nobody really wants to get to the truth, to even realize that they're being deceived or that things are being hidden from them. So it does take the diligence and digging in. It's all there, and it's very eye-opening once you do look into these certain topics.
Right.
So this is very interesting, and really, I never even noticed it until we got on this walk and it was pointed out to us. But this one-eyed symbolism is just everywhere. all kinds of celebrities, athletes, stars of every kind on photo shoots, on magazine covers, album covers, everywhere.
It's everywhere.
It's crazy that once this is pointed out, how often you will see a star do this. And why would you cover up half your face to be on the cover of a magazine? That doesn't
every single one of them
make
too.
any
It's not
logical
just one.
sense.
I mean, look at these. The ones on the left are the 666, holding up that's 666. Here, let's see. 666, right? That's exactly what that is. And the other is the one eye symbolism. And it's always the right eye, right? No, some of them are the left, but right eye is.
It's always the covering of the one eye.
Mm-hmm.
So what do you support? Can you see the influence and what our most elite and famous people worship that has come all this way from Mitzrayim? Can it be coincidence?
No,
definitely not.
Our country was founded with this as its base.
And this is really like a hidden handshake, a sign to each other to let them know that, hey, I'm a part of this. The normal person probably is got to not even realize they're doing it, but especially not know what it signifies. Right. And so this is really a sign between them to let each other know that they're part of this club.
Right. And then you'll see that also, like now you see all these male actors wearing skirts. And I'm not just talking about ones that are changing. I'm talking about regular heterosexual men that are now wearing skirts. There's a ritual that goes through with all these things. It's a symbol. It's an acknowledgement, like James just said, that, hey, I'm here. I'm doing what I'm supposed to within this. Let's just call it a cult, because that's basically what it is.
Well, and many times you will see that there's a humiliation ritual or initiation for them to be able to get in. There's even another thing I didn't include, but the one-eyed symbolism where these people have a massive black eye. And it's kind of ironic that all these celebrities would get knocked out in the same eye, but that is another kind of rite of passage or a humiliative act in order to get into this. So keep your eyes out, and you may start noticing this more and more if you haven't already caught on.
Right. This me? So digging into that, just curious where the one eye folklore comes from, where it could be stemming from. Odin is the one-eyed Norse god of both war and death. So here is the story of him sitting on his throne named, I don't even think I can say that with Frigg in the hall of Valhalla. The Frigga is his wife, right? Which is where we get the word Friday from. Odin looked out across the whole world, but he wanted to know everything and gain wisdom and knowledge of things hidden from him. This was a desire that drove him to sacrifice himself. So listen to this. He sacrificed his eye in Mirmir's well, and he threw himself on his spear, Gungnir, in a kind of symbolic ritual suicide, and then he hanged himself in yhvh, the tree of life, for 9 days and 9 nights in order to gain knowledge of other worlds and be able to understand the runes. Rune stone is like a stone in Norse mythology that has like a magic spell or magic words on it. So during his sacrificial actions, he saw visions and received secret wisdom. The magical knowledge he gained made him able to cure the sick, calm storms, turn weapons against his attackers, make women fall in love, and render dangerous troll women harmless, often just with a look. So here you see him pictured. I couldn't zoom in really well, but he only has one eye. And you can see the sun and the rays behind him. So I find it interesting that this is a lot of the symbolism that you see in Hollywood with the one eye. Are they trying to get that magical knowledge? Are these rituals that are still being carried out? I think it's too much of a coincidence. I think a lot of it is very intentional, and it's right in our faces. It's not even hidden. There's nothing hidden.
I know in one of the more recent Thor movies, obviously his father Odin had
One eye.
the one eye, but then Thor himself also lost his eye.
So that he could assume the throne,
Mm-hmm.
right? He had to have that knowledge. He had to go through that sacrifice. And we also saw that not long ago. I think Shell and I were reading, and we heard, or I read, where that was one of the, let's see, was it Solomon? I think they were trying to overtake Israel and said, if you'll pluck out one of your eyes, we'll just keep you as servants. So this has been something that has been around for a long time.
And if you think these guys are fake or make believe, the day Wednesday is where this comes from, after Odin. So most of the days of our week are actually named gods after those gods.
Yeah. And you just don't realize it.
So all the way back in Deuteronomy, we have this warning, the warning against idolatry.
It fits.
In Deuteronomy 12:29 through 32, when Yahuwah Eloheka shall cut off the nations from before you, whither you go to possess them, and you succeed them and dwell in their land, take heed to yourself that you be not snared by following them, after that they be destroyed from before you, and that you inquire not after their Elohim, saying, how did these nations serve their Elohim? Even so will I do likewise. You shall not do so unto Yahuwah Eloheka, for every abomination to Yahuwah, which he hates, have they done unto their Elohim. For even their sons and their daughters they have burnt in the fire to their Elohim. What things soever I command you, guard to do it. You shall not add thereto, nor diminish from it. Very common phrase, passing your children through the fire can really mean all kinds of things, but we see that was a very common practice back then, and we have just really kept that tradition alive in new and inventive ways.
Some even say that a lot of this switching, where boys can choose to be girls or girls boys, that could also be considered passing them through the fire.
That was even a practice back then.
That sacrifice, that actually was a practice back then to cause that abomination. Ooh, that's small. I'm going to scoot up. So here we're going to get into the origins of the festival of Samhain, or Halloween, which originated in Ireland, Scotland, and the Isle of Man. So the Celts who lived 2,000 years ago in Ireland celebrated their new year on November 1st, when the world of the gods was believed to be made visible to mankind. It's a tradition held at the end of summer when sacrifices were made to the gods in Druid tradition. The adherents believed that Samhain, the god of death, scattered evil spirits during this time throughout the world to attack humans. These evil spirits played nasty tricks as soon as the dark winter and the waning of the sun set in. So to escape the attack, humans would assume disguises and make themselves look like evil spirits too. So that's where you get dressed up. Halloween is also the favorite time of year for witches or advocates of Wicca. Wicca is the official religion of witchcraft. Wiccan adherents believe that the night of October 31st, the separation of physical and spiritual realities is at its thinnest and least guarded. And so it's the best time for those who have necromantic abilities to speak to the dead. Necromancy is speaking to the dead. So in the 1st century AD, Samhain was assimilated into celebrations of some Roman traditions that took place in October, such as the day to honor Pomona, the Roman goddess of fruit and trees. Pomona's symbol is the apple, which might explain the origin of bobbing for apples on Halloween. The custom of trick-or-treating is thought to have Irish origins, possibly the practice of going door to door begging for soul cakes or offerings for one's dead relatives. Failure to supply a treat would result in a practical joke or a trick or treat. So the jack-o'-lantern custom is believed to come from Irish folklore about a drunk named Jack who tricked Satan into climbing a tree, then carved an image of a cross in the trunk to trap the devil. He struck a deal for Satan to leave his soul alone when he died, but then heaven would not take him either. So he carried embers in a hollowed turnip as he wandered in eternal darkness. The turnip was replaced with a pumpkin when we Americanized it. It's just crazy to me that when you dig into these things and you see the evil connotations where they began, many times we've heard the statement, it was Christianized you know. I don't think you can do that. I don't think you can Christianize evil. There's no way. I don't see Yah accepting that explanation. I think there's a line. You can't have one foot in his world and on the narrow path with Yah and the other foot in the world of pagan tradition and pagan holidays. I don't think you can do it.
I think a lot of people kind of align their moral compass with what the church does and participates in. And you see more and more churches are participating in Halloween. And even though they make it fun and cute for the kids, there's so much evil origins. It's just really a shame to see them allowing that. And that's just traditions and doctrines of men.
And it's confusing for my grown-up children now why I don't want to participate, and we take hits for that on this walk. There's going to be lots of people not understand and just think you're too extreme. I don't know that y'all will agree with that. And really that's the only concern I have is what my conversation is going to be with Yah when I get there, and how many things am I going to have to answer for. And now I'm just shedding everything that is not of yahuah.
This is a great example of how we are turning evil into good.
Right.
It's okay. It's acceptable. It's okay for the children to dress up and go to school in their costume or paint their face. We have taken the evil out of it so it can be good. But really the evil has been there the whole time. We've just covered it up with the face paint.
It's like a trance. It's like being in a trance. And it's consumerism. That's why when you're watching TV 24/7 and this stuff is just filtered into your eyes and your ears, of course you're going to think it's normal and okay, because that is all that is on right now. I promise you. We don't have cable anymore, so we don't watch it. But I guarantee you that is everything that is on TV right now is dealing with Halloween. And most people don't have a clue what the holiday is even about or why they're doing it. It's like being cattle. You're just herded in and out, herded from this pagan tradition to that one. And people end up participating without even realizing it's a ritual that you're participating in.
And just like Christmas, both Halloween and Christmas for many years were illegal and not allowed in America because, they knew what it represented.
They did.
And they were not going to stand for it. They had the morals of the Puritans, wanted, to keep the word pure and the church pure. And just over time, it has slowly been corrupted.
Because having fun and fitting in is more important than your eternal soul, than your eternal damnation. That's just how I look at it. And I definitely am not judging anyone. I'm just trying to shine a light in the darkness. I participated, but once my eyes were open, that was it. I couldn't in good merit participate anymore, because I do love y'all with all my heart and all my mind and all my soul. And I know that he can't be where evil is. I know he can't be in me, and he can't be in your church. If you're doing Halloween in your church, he can't be where that is. He's not going to be where there is a mixture of good and evil. And you can't Christianize evil. You can't do it. And we'll get into Christmas later on a different show, but you're going to see also in that Santa Claus has origins in Norse mythology and the god Odin as well. You're going to see how crazily intertwined all of this is. It's just, when you see it, it's like, wow.
Yeah, I mean, really, it all stems from the Catholic Church wanting to convert all these pagan, practicing
So
people.
they mixed them in.
They wanted them to become religious, and so they knew that they couldn't just completely do away with it all. So they just kind of mixed it together and gave them enough to be satisfied. And so it's continued to this day.
It is.
So as Christianity spread through Europe, it came into conflict with the indigenous pagan beliefs. The organized church basically challenged the established customs by trying to introduce Christian alternatives. Although Christianity gained some converts, many were adamant, and so the missionaries succeeded only in Christianizing pagan rituals. Getting ahead of myself, like always.
Yeah.
They were only able to introduce Christian symbols and practices to the pagan traditions, like All Hallows Eve, remembrance.
Which is where you get the name Halloween.
Mm-hmm. The missionaries injected the All Saints' Day concept into the pagan Halloween celebration. They introduced the evening before All Saints' Day as All Hallows Eve, when the time of solemn remembrance of the martyrs begins. The term was derived from hallowed, which means holy. All Hallows Eve was shortened to Halloween, then eventually became Halloween over the years. The only difference between the two practices is that the early Christians' observance of Halloween never involved wearing costumes. It was rather a solemn event focused on prayer and meditation. Sadly, though, the pagan practices held a remarkably strong influence that some of the new converts were unable to abandon their old customs altogether. Over the years, other Christians adopted these customs too. Besides, commercialization came into play. Thus, the practice of trick-or-treat, costumes, ornaments, the makeup, and body coloring is very much alive even to the present. You can find all this information from the website below. We will have that link in the description if you want to dig in yourself or send to others.
So I've attached this link also, and it will be in the description. It's actually a video interview of John Ramirez. I don't know if a lot of people probably do know about him. He's been on CBN and several other shows giving his testimony. John Ramirez is an ex-Satanist, and he warns against one-night stands with the devil and recounts 30 days of torment after finding Christ. So after he left Satanism, in this video, you'll see in his interview that he went through 30 days of just severe torment. So he likens celebrating Halloween to cheating on yahusha, and Christians don't see Satanists going to church. There's a quote. This is a quote of John Ramirez saying, there's a quote by Anton LaVey, founder of the Church of Satan, where he says in his own words, I want to thank every Christian parent, not Buddha, not Muhammad, none of that. Every Christian parent, I want to thank them that they allow their children to celebrate the devil one night out of the year, which is Halloween. Ramirez said warningly, he's intentionally thanking Christian parents. Thank you for dressing up your kids, changing their identities, and sacrificing spiritually. And that's what we were talking about, the passing your children through the fire. You're changing their identity, right? And people won't see it that way. It's just fun playing dress up. But when you dig into it and you see the spiritual connotations to this, there's so many different layers, like peeling an onion within there. For the past 20 years, this born-again Christian has been persistently working to expose the enemy's schemes. The devil is at work and lurking in the shadows, targeting Christians. He adds their spiritual warfare and spiritual atmosphere and opportunity that the devil gives you. We need to be precise, we need to be persistent, and we need to know how to conquer those opportunities. And the link will be in our description box as well. And this is, in case you're wondering, this is Anton LaVey, the founder of the Church of Satan. I'm glad that Christian parents let their children worship the devil at least one night out of the year. When I saw that several years ago, that was the end of it for me. And I don't know how these things are hidden, or why, if I had seen it, I didn't pay attention and that it didn't scare me absolutely to my core. Okay, let's get off him. I don't like looking at his face.
He is creepy.
He is. He's dead now.
But he did his damage. He
did.
Ruined so many people's lives, indoctrinating them in the evil.
And making them think that they're cool. You know, you're on the cool team if you're hanging out there. Ugh.
So the world's obsession with pagan holidays pushed by greedy businesses looking to make a buck, regardless of the implications morally or spiritually. National Retail Federation estimates for 2022, Halloween spending will reach a record $10.6 billion, exceeding last year's record of $10.1 billion. So even in a recession and all this, we're still willing to spend all our money that we possibly can afford on Halloween candy, decorations, and costumes. Reporting by Finder.com notes that Americans are expected to spend $803 million on pumpkins alone for carving into jack-o'-lanterns.
Wow.
The number one costume ranking in 2022 for adults. Number 1 is a witch, 2 is a vampire, 3 is a ghost.
Wow.
You know,
all 3 of those, Yah says don't do that, right?
You get indoctrinated as a child. You grow up year after year wanting to be your favorite character or whatever. And this doesn't end as a child. You see many adults still participating in this celebration. We, for many years, dressed up, you know, not thinking twice about it. And of course, once we realized what we were really doing, we just dropped it and never looked back and repented. Still because, repenting. You know, there is so much that we don't even realize what we may have opened up or exposed ourselves to. So it's not just a thing for children. There's adults and children alike, year after year, participating in this, encouraging them, passing the traditions down generation to generation. The official poverty rate in 2021 was 11.6%, with 37.9 million people in poverty. Even with these rates of poverty, people will still spend the money to participate in Halloween, Christmas, and Easter. The pagan holidays are steeped in greed, lasciviousness, envy, jealousy, coveting, and pride, with a ruach of bankruptcy, both morally and monetarily. To participate, you are required to spend on the decorations, the costumes, the gifts, the food and drink. And if you don't, then you are just not normal. And when they are done, you are left empty and depressed.
So true. So some documents mention that during Samhain, 6 days of drinking alcohol to excess, typically drinking alcohol to excess, which was typically mead or beer, along with gluttonous feast. So excessive alcoholism. And that's usually associated with all the pagan holidays. Of all the holidays, though, Halloween ranks number 5 in terms of overall alcohol consumption, which I found rather low on the ladder. That's typically the pagan holiday that was always associated. Every bar out there will have a costume contest. So that I found that weird. Many don't just consume 1 or 2 drinks, but rather spend the night binge drinking, consuming 5 or more drinks in 2 hours for men and 4 drinks for women. Death can often be the result. In fact, 43% of car crashes on Halloween involve someone who has a blood alcohol content of 0.08 or higher. In addition, 23% of pedestrian deaths are a result of drunk driving. The risks are even higher when Halloween falls on a weekend, as alcohol consumption rises by 30%. Moreover, individuals under the age of 21 show the highest fatality rate, with a 45% of drunk car collisions ending in the death on Halloween night. How sad is that? I know where I grew up, there were always tons of car wrecks around Halloween. The drinking and driving, people getting into mischief, throwing eggs at houses, just all kinds of tricks go on that night.
Well, and what is everybody doing? They're walking the streets. So
They
it
are.
would be so dangerous if this is such a high rate of drunk driving.
Right.
You know, these poor little children are at risk in so many ways.
But look, it's a continuation of that Samhain that was started back in the days of the Druids and the Celts, where 6 days of drinking alcohol to excess and gluttonous feast, you know. So below that led me to 1 Peter 4:1 through 4:5. I just wanted to put this in there. Yah really pulled me in this direction. For as much then as Mashiach has suffered for us in the flesh, arm yourselves likewise with the same mind. For he that has suffered in the flesh has ceased from sin, that he no longer should live the rest of his time in the flesh to the lust of men, but to the will of Elohim. For the time past of our life may suffice us to have wrought the will of the other nations, when we walked in lasciviousness, lusts, excess of wine, revelings, banquetings, and abominable idolatries, wherein they think it strange that you run not with them to the same excess of riot, speaking evil of you. Who shall give account to him that is ready to judge the quick and the dead? So this fits so well. People are not going to be happy when you choose not to participate, and they're going to call you all kinds of names and suggest that you're crazy because you hate chocolate. There's so much more to it. There's so much more. We are to live to the will of Elohim, and we see what it is that he asks of us, what it is that he wants of us. It's not this. It's not participating in pagan traditions.
You know, really, I know this is a church thing, but what would Messiah do? You know, just ask yourself that when you're at a crossroads in life, wondering if, you know, do I need to do this to fit in, or is it okay to partake or not?
Right. Or it's
you know,
not that bad
would
to
he
just dress up.
participate in this kind of activity? You know, and I think your gut will tell you whether your mind wants to admit it or not.
Or not, right. Set apart is set apart.
So we're going to finish here in Isaiah chapter 8, starting in verse 18. Behold, I and the children whom yahuah have given me are for signs and for wonders in Yasharel, from yahuah Sebaoth, which dwells in Mount Zion. And when they shall say unto you, seek unto them that have familiar spirits, and unto wizards that peep, and that mutter, should not a people seek unto their Elohim, for the living to the dead? To the Torah and to the testimony, if they speak not according to this word, it is because there is no light in them. And they shall pass through it, hardly bestowed and hungry. And it shall come to pass that when they shall be hungry, they shall fret themselves and curse their king and their Elohim, and look upward. And they shall look unto the earth, and behold trouble and darkness, dimness of anguish, and they shall be driven to darkness.
Galatians 5:19 through 5:21. Now the works of the flesh are manifest, which are these: adultery, fornication, uncleanness, lasciviousness, idolatry, witchcraft, hatred, variance, emulations, wrath, strife, seditions, and heresies, envyings, murders, drunkenness, revelings, and such like, of the which I tell you before, as I have also told you in time past, that they which do such things shall not inherit the kingdom of Elohim. And in Revelations 18:23, and the light of a candle shall shine no more at all in you, and the voice of the bridegroom and of the bride shall be heard no more at all in you. For your merchants were the great men of the earth, for by your sorceries were all nations deceived. And Revelations 21:8, but the fearful and unbelieving and the abominable and murderers and whoremongers and sorcerers and idolaters and all liars shall have their part in the lake which burns with fire and brimstone, which is the second death. These are all things I don't ever want to experience. And when someone says to you, it's not that big a deal, these are the words of Yahweh, of our Elohim, that says that it is a big deal. And I pray these words comfort. And if you need to speak to your family members that don't understand, please send it to them. Please talk to them, because I think it's important that we at least do our due diligence to shine a light on this darkness. We absolutely have to. And whether they accept it or not at that point is on them. And don't judge. Do it from a place of love, and just understand Yahweh is working on them as well. And you may be planting a seed that's going to grow in a deeper faith and a desire to make Yahweh happy with them, to get on that narrow path.
Just digging in, I would encourage you to do your own studies. We've been doing this for 3 or 4 years now, and we're still learning so much, that we don't even know yet. This is just scratching the surface, but it is eye-opening to find these truths and deceptions. And, unfortunately, society has made it to where if you don't do these things, you don't fit in, and you're not part of the cool club. And, people just think you're abnormal, but really, we're sticking to what Yah has commanded, what the Torah says. We're being bold, and that's sometimes not easy to do, especially when the world is kind of pointing at us like we're the odd ones out. We're just trying to do the right thing, and we hope that, these words can encourage you to stand bold as well for the word and for the truth.
For Yahweh.
Encourage you to find these truths for your own. There's so many topics, rabbit trails that you can go down, but you've got to start in order to really awaken your eyes and your ears. So,
and you start in his word. That's the key part. You start in his word. and you will never be steered off track if that's what you're doing.
His word is perfect and will never lead you astray.
Right.
Doctrines of man will absolutely lead you astray. So stay in Scripture and know that he wants the best for you, and the way to righteousness is in the Word.
It is. And I'll see you in the morning on Mercy Poured Forth.
Thank you, everyone. We hope that you have a wonderful week as we enter into Shabbat, and we're just hoping that you have a blessed rest day and that you come back and see us next time. Shalom.
Shalom.